Welcome on in my Ashwings to episode 19 of the Common Language Podcast. That's right. I am back at it. I figured if I had anything that I wanted to rant about and my feelings towards Flesh and Blood, or even just any good news about things that happened in my week of Fab, I want to share it all with you here in this podcast. So at some point here, I would like this podcast to obviously be something a little bit more in regards to maybe reaching out to gold foil winners of commoner events, or even if it's something along the lines of just talking a bit more with other players in the budget playing space on how they feel about the overall, the world of Flesh and Blood in those means. Something that I would actually like to talk about today is a topic that I am very, very curious as to why this has not happened yet. We are moving into Skirmish Season 12 now. This is the 12th Skirmish season that LSS has given to the players. And Skirmish season, notably, is a very casual tournament experience in which you play a lot of these formats that you would not normally see at these larger events outside of side events, right? But with Skirmish Season 12, they're actually allowing for 3 different formats to be chosen at stores. Those formats being Blitz, Living Legend, and Crack, Shuffle, and Play, which is the budget kind of way to go about just buying 3 packs for entry, putting those packs together, and playing against your opponent in a more randomized, limited environment where it's just you against another individual with the cards you pulled out of your deck or out of your packs, and that's it. And you're all set and ready to go. But something that I do want to make note of, and this is my reach out to LSS in a way, and I hope that all of you can find the same way to do this. Why in the world has Commoner not ever been a format to be played at Skirmish season? Why? Why has Commoner never been a format for a store to choose for the Skirmish season? Commoner notably having probably a bit more love in the format compared to Crack, Shuffle, and Play, which don't get me wrong, I understand the need for Crack, Shuffle, and Play, and I do hope to see it implemented the same way in future iterations of the Mastery Pack set. But when it comes to something like a budget way to play the game and a more casual way to play Flesh and Blood, Commoner should have been one of your first choices, really, to get people in for these events. I know initially that the reason Blitz is offered in these skirmish seasons is because this is how those heroes get LL points, which is very, very cool, right? To see that that's how Blitz heroes are going to be getting their Living Legend points. But notably, you're now offering Living Legend, and you've offered Living Legend in the past. And now also you're offering Crack, Shuffle, and Play, which means that Skirmish season is no longer the way that Blitz heroes get their LL points. It is now an amalgamation of different formats that a store can choose to run at their Skirmish event that they host locally. So with that being the case, I would like to very much so ask that Skirmish season also include formats like Commoner. You could even include formats like UPF if you really wanted to get crazy with it. And then you also have formats coming up like Silver Age or Project Blue, right? Now, of course, the reason for you not offering Commoner is because you eventually plan to phase out Commoner, that's one thing. And obviously, I'm not privy to that, but it is something that is very, very important to keep in mind whenever you are looking at the overall reasons why something like this would not have happened previously, right? I mean, Commoner is so easy to get into. A store could literally just grab a whole bunch of their bulk, make pre-made decks from Fabrary, sleeve them up, put them in there, or not even sleeve them up, leave them unsleeved, put them in a team bag, right? You can't see this. Put them in a team bag and then sell them 2 players if they really wanted a deck to get into. Or just give them out to players to play, and then they'd have to buy like sleeves, right? That's essentially the same cost as if you were buying the deck. So in that scenario, there's so many options that are available, and it's weird that Commoner of all formats only ever sees any kind of play at organized play events like Callings, Battle Hardens, Nats, Worlds, right? It doesn't make any sense to me why that would be the case, why those things would exist at that level, but they would not exist at the skirmish level, right? And so with that being said, I definitely feel like there is an avenue in which LSS can go down, in which they speak a little bit about these budget formats and how they are meant to be ways to get into the game and for incredibly cheap and all this stuff, but they're not going to make Commoner like precons for people to buy. That should be something that every store is utilizing with their commons already. So that way they do not need to, that way they don't need to worry about throwing out all this bulk. I know it was a super awesome thing to see the folks over at MinMax Games actually utilize that. They, I know it was there was a time in which I went to a calling in 2022. I want to say maybe it was 2023. We're going to say it was 2022. I went to a calling, and at that calling, no, it was 2023. Stop. 2023. There was a calling. And I went there, but I did not have some of my commons with me. I literally brought a decent amount of stuff, but I didn't even think about playing Commoner. I was like, oh, I'm going to go there and I'm going to play in the main event and play in the calling. And then I did not make day 2 in the calling. So I said, what else can I do? I said, well, why don't we play Commoner, right? Super easy deck to build, should be about $10, easy peasy, but I didn't have any of my bulk on me. And I felt bad having to buy all this bulk because obviously I probably had most of it at my house. But at the moment, if I'm trying to build a deck, I didn't have it, right? I didn't have all that stuff. And if it weren't for MinMax carrying all of their bulk with them to this calling for them to have when they are vending, I would not have been able to play in any of the Commoner events. But now what they've done is they've actually made Commoner decks from their bulk to bring with them to Commoner events, or not to Commoner events specifically, but to these organized play events. All of these big things like Nats and Worlds and Callings all around the world, they bring a stack of these Commoner decks with them because if somebody just wants to buy the deck, they go, this is the deck list that's in this deck, $15, right? You can get a deck. And, it costs the company money to have an employee pick all of these cards and put them into a team bag and get everything together. So it's, $15 is still pretty good. And then, of course, you can buy a pack of sleeves from them as well. That gets you another, $25 worth of a sale. And that still gets you a very viable deck in the Commoner format, which is great. Again, I think that accessibility and there being an alternate route to do something with your commons and your rares is important. And that is what is going to... That's what's going to change everything in regards to like the overall concept of, bulk. Bulk will have more of a purpose if it's just transferred into decks. And then those decks are just, maybe you sell them at shops. Maybe you don't sell them at all and you hand them out to people and you just have them buy a pack of sleeves, as a combo, right? It's like, okay, if you buy sleeves, we'll give you a Commoner deck for free for you to sleeve up because that, it's effectively the cost of a deck it's like $14 for a thing of sleeves. So it's huge amount of value in that regard. And so definitely something that I suggest more and more stores doing. And then of course that maybe for Skirmish season 13, maybe if anybody out there from LSS is watching this or anybody from our community who's feeling the same way and has maybe more pull than myself, please, I would love to see Commoner as a format even selected for stores at skirmish season, because stores get to choose, right? Stores get to choose which format they are going to be running, from what I'm understanding. Stores get to choose what format they're running when they are given the opportunity to run a skirmish. And this gives stores the ability to go, okay, cool, like we can make that choice. And they can then ask their local players and say, what would you prefer for a skirmish season? And if people don't choose Commoner, that's fine, right? If Commoner is not a choice, totally understandable. But the fact that it never has been a choice is what gets me. I think that it always should have been a way to go about playing Flesh and Blood at a common level, especially from like a competitive standpoint. I feel like so much of that has been available for so long and nobody's been doing anything about it. And then, of course, you have the introduction of Project Blue, or possibly Silver Age, moving into 2026. That's going to be another format that I would also like to advocate for skirmish seasons, because these are evergreen formats. Now that we know that Living Legend is able to be provided as a skirmish season event, we should now be looking at other evergreen formats, or evergreen, no, that's just correct, evergreen formats like Project Blue and Commoner and all that stuff to also be allowed to be chosen from whenever you are making a skirmish event. So that's my TED Talk. I do really think that that is incredibly important to the overall concept of the deck, or of the game in general. But it was incredibly it's going to be only beneficial, right? Because if it is chosen, then you at least know that you have people who are out there willing to play in those events. But again, the fact it's not an option is what gets me. So let Commoner be a thing. Let it be more of a thing. I would love to see more Commoner at skirmish events. And with that being said, I mean, skirmish events just being as they are oftentimes is very laid back and chill. I remember I was my only skirmish event I think I ever went to. No, I went to two. One skirmish event I went to was back out in Illinois, and I got a whole bunch of awesome raffle prizes just for like being there, which was really cool. And it was just fun being able to just play with some people. And I think I went like 3-2 on Prism when I was playing in Blitz. And it just was different. And it felt more fun and exciting to play in a skirmish than it was for like amping up for a calling, you know? So at the end of the day, it was worth it. And I do think that adding something like Commoner, because obviously we have seen with a battle hardened being represented as a Commoner battle hardened out in Portland not too long ago, that should put more eyes on the Commoner format as something to push for at least a skirmish season. Not to mention the fact that, again, it's not like it hurts, because gold foil events are happening at big organized play events. You have people who are fighting for some like $500 plus card as a trophy prize for playing a game that you only need to have $10 worth of a deck for. And I think that skirmish season would help out in those situations to provide a little bit of what do you call it? Provide a little bit of accessibility, I guess is really the right word I'm looking for. So keep that in mind. Hopefully LSS, it's something I would love to see moving forward. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep running my own little Commoner events all over the place. And that's what I'm going to do. Commoner, Project Blue, that whole thing. It's just super hype. The other thing I want to talk about from the Common Language podcast standpoint is just a little thing here. I was actually, and notably, I would probably have made a different video regarding this, but I'm going to actually just post it in here so that way people not post it in here. But I'm going to let people know I was lucky enough to be chosen by LSS to have a spoiler card for the Super Slam season. And I am so stoked to start creating for this video and for showing you guys the card. I do think it's going to be really, really awesome, and I'm going to work pretty hard on making it that way. But of course, at the end of the day, I'm just thankful that the people who are watching this right now, the people who have been watching my content for a long time, are continuing to support me, continuing to showcase my content to other people. And I can't even, when I get called locally, as well as just like anytime I go to a big event and I meet other people and I'm called a pillar of the community, it really does mean a lot. And it's pretty ego boosting for sure, but it's also a daunting thing. I want to make sure that my content and my mannerisms and my actions do help grow the community of Flesh and Blood, whether it be from a casual perspective or I get people in casually and then they grow into a more competitive level. Because I know that deep down, the end game is get people to play Classic Constructed. But there should be a path, and I think having a path is fine. I don't think that you should go in, jump into a shark-infested water, and then go, oh, I got bit. I hate this. Everything about this is bad. I'm going to go play something else that maybe might be more fitting. Play casually. Playing casually is going to get you such a better concept of game rules and hero matchups and card synergies and things like that. And you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to do anything in regards to breaking the bank. And that's just the mentality that I want to continue to push when it comes to Flesh and Blood, is that, yes, at some point, the competitive level is going to get expensive for you, which is fine, because cards having value is okay. And I might get flamed for that. I think cards having a good amount of value is fine. An excessive amount of value, now maybe not, right? But we do see that LSS is working towards reprinting some of these more expensive cards in new art that is helping drive their prices to a much lower level. So that way it's a bit more accessible. I can't deny that Codex of Frailty, that was $100 at one point before its reprint, is now down to like 40 some dollars. A $60 decrease in cost is pretty good. It didn't happen for CNC, but it certainly happened with Codex of Frailty. So it's insane. But notably, it is just important that we all are playing this game to have fun, right? We are all here growing with each other, making friends, seeing the world, play the game, see the world kind of deal, right? My whole mentality is the same, right? Play the game, parentheses, on a budget, see the world, parentheses, because now you can afford to travel, is my concept, right? So with that being said, again, that's why a podcast like this exists, is because I want it to be specific towards helping people get into the game without that gap, and also showcasing that there is still quite a skill level necessary for Flesh and Blood, even at a budget level. It is not at all, not to kind of like poo-poo on Blitz, but Blitz is Classic Constructed power with half the life. And frankly, that does not translate very well, which is why I think most people I speak to here in the States, at least, dislike Blitz, because it's just so swingy that sometimes you just lose. But playing at lower budget levels with just Commoner or even Project Blue, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of these minute decisions that can still provide a different play experience for everybody. And as long as ban lists are kept up on, and heroes don't take the lion's share of all of the wins for everything, you're in a good spot to continue to just play whatever you want to play and grow with the game. And then when you're ready, you can take the plunge into Classic Constructed. Buy an armory deck, upgrade the armory deck. There are budget ways to go about playing Classic Constructed too. So at the end of the day, I'm just really, really excited to be a part of this community, and for LSS to provide me with a spoiler card because of that, or I don't know why. I could have just been next on the list effectively, but hearing everybody's thank yous and congratulations, it really does mean a lot. And from the bottom of my very, very draconic heart, thank you all for being a part of this journey, for allowing me to speak into this microphone and look at you through this camera and tell you to have fun in the flesh and blood. Thank you for everything that you have provided, whether it be a comment telling me that maybe my audio could be better, or that my gameplay content is really good, or they like the way that I talk about the different lines that are available in decks. Just know that every single day I think about new ways to grow this content and to bring it to a much more professional level. And that's what I want to continue doing for all of you Ashwings. So yeah, kind of a short one today. I think I'm going to try and keep these ones fairly short, just because normally from a podcast perspective, you have another person. Because another person here is where they would be if I had another person to chat with. I've not thought about a guest appearance or how often it would make sense to talk about the commoner meta. But I do think that's something I would like to do, is get people who win gold foil commoner events onto the channel to speak with them and kind of get their insight, or really any players in the commoner format, get their insight on how they felt the format is, how they feel things are, what they would like to see changed, if anything. And then also on top of it, just showcasing those winners, right? You know, if somebody wins a gold foil event, they get a small little blurb in the LSS live blog, and then that's it. Nobody hears from them for the rest of their existence. And it sucks, because those champions should also be brought to a spotlight and have these deck techs happen and all that stuff. So I'm going to do my best to be a little bit more vocal about getting people onto here. So I'll probably talk a bit with some of the big names in the commoner format, talk a little bit about how we feel that the format is, could anything change, and just have some different guests on every now and again. But when I don't have a guest on, it'll be this. It'll be us talking about the things we love, changes we would like to see from LSS, if anything, and then kind of moving forward from there. So thank you all so much for watching today's episode of the Common Language Podcast. I'm just happy to be able to do that and get another episode out there for you. Of course, if you have any questions or anything that we spoke on today, you can feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I will also obviously be releasing this video a week early than my non-channel members would be able to see. So with that being the case, my channel members will get this video first, and then new or regular subscribers will get to watch it then as well, which is really awesome. So if you do want to become a channel member to help kind of see these earlier, or maybe you just want to support the channel in your own special way, you can do so by becoming a channel member. I really appreciate all my channel members and all they do. But it's not necessary. You'll get the content either way. You'll just have to wait a little bit. But overall, I'm super excited to continue to work on content and to bring a budget experience to Flesh and Blood and advocate for better representation for budget play and casual play, so that way players can feel like they don't have to immediately spend a down payment on something to play Flesh and Blood at its most advertised and most competitive level, being something like a Calling or Battle Hardened or something of the sort there too. So, but of course, if that's your jam, I'm not telling you that you're a bad person. If you can afford to drop $1,000 on a card game, go for it. Classic Constructed is super fun. I still play it all the time. I have 3 decks in Classic Constructed. I absolutely adore the format, and I really, really enjoy the game as a whole. But a lot of my advocacies are going to be for Commoner and Project Blue now moving forward, just because I really enjoy these budget formats and the way people can play at a budget level. and the skill expression you can find on the cards that most people would just throw away in the trash. So if you enjoyed today's episode of the Common Language Podcast, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and as always, continue to have fun in the flesh and blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in our next installment of the Common Language Podcast.